until you know what you're doing, probably best to follow the script of the scrutineering form. So go through these and they're either pass or fail. So the first item on there is the track. There's a couple of ways to test them. You can either waggle them as a pair, like that, and there should be minimal movement. Or you can try moving each one on its own. Again, there shouldn't be any movement, they should be free to wobble like that. So the track rod ends are fine.
They're fine.
Like that.
Okay.
So that would be passed. Next is the steering column. Bottom of the steering column, there should be a nut on the thread that comes out there. That's to stop it pulling out. Yeah, so with your finger you can feel that. Up here there's a safety collet, so that if that nut fails, it stops the steering wheel, the steering column being pulled out. So even if that nut falls off, the column can't pull out, which means your steering would still work. So that's the same. So you have to have a collet there, that bit there, pressed up against that bush. Then you've got the actual steering wheel itself, which should be firmly attached. So that's a fail.
That's a fail?
That's a fail because it's not.
Right.
All you need to do with that is tighten that up.
Tighten the nut?
Tighten that up, and that will almost certainly be the end of the problem. Yeah, but you can see at the moment, there's rather a lot of play there. Next one is the front wheel bearings, which are there and there. So it's the things that allow the wheels to move forward, and you can test those by rocking it backwards and forwards. It's a little bit of play is fine. And it shouldn't make a grating, horrible noise. Should spin freely without too much play. So that's fine. That's actual wheel bearings. Kingpins are these bits. Okay. Now to test those, you get hold of the stub axle and you wiggle it up and down. So come round here. You get hold of the end of the stub axle and you wiggle it up and down. There's no play, so they shouldn't wobble at all. If they do, try tightening it first, and if that doesn't work, it almost needs new bearings, because these bearings sit inside there. So if it wobbles and tightening doesn't sort it, then you need new bearings. Front wheels and tyres. I've already looked at the bearings, but the wheels themselves need to be attached, obviously. Should have a couple of threads showing beyond the blue. Can you see the blue nylock? Yeah. If your wheel is too far out so that the blue doesn't lock onto the thread, your wheel will fall off. The nut needs to be done up, tightened enough so that you can still move the spacers on this side. So it's at the right sort of tightness when you can still move those. There's still some play in those. So it's threads visible and it's not too tight. If these are scrunched up, you're actually crushing the bearings. So next one on the list is the brakes. Couple of points. You need two cables. You need a main cable and a safety cable, and if you look in the rule book it's got the minimum diameter that's allowed, but those are fine. And then you actually check that the brakes work by checking. It's easier if the tyres are inflated because you can see those brakes are fine. Front bumper. This is your front bumper, this bit and this bit, these two components here. We'll do the nose cone even though it's out of order because it all sort of forms a single piece. So you need it to be attached at the top and attached at the bottom, and then the nose cone is attached to the bumper. There's either a metal or a nylon clamp in the centre, and then there are 2 flick off clasps to keep it in place. The tops of those should be cable tied onto the bumper, so that if they come undone, they don't fall off onto the circuit. You mustn't tie them on the bottom, because the idea of those is that if you use this as a battering ram, it will flick off. So you're not allowed to put those on, because that would let you.
So where does the cable?
So the cable ties over the top bit, not over that bit. So it still has to be able to flick like that. So that's right as it is. Nose cone needs to be complete with no obvious major holes. In the rule book you've got rules about the size of the numbers, but basically if you buy the stickies, they'll be the right size. If you are lucky enough to get into the top 10, so you've only got a single number, it should still be on a 6-inch square rather than just a single number in the middle. But that's for the future, because you've got to win to actually do that. And obviously when you actually start racing, the numbers, again in the rule book, but for this class it's white numbers on a red background. Same with on both sides. They need to be legible as well, so that the lap scorers can see them as you go past. Need a plate on the back with a number. So we've got side number plates, okay. Floor tray is this bit. Designed to stop the driver's feet coming into contact with the circuit. Basically it needs to be sound, all the bolts need to be attached. You'll see, I think one of the things pointed out last time, you do get cracks going in them. If you get a crack, drill the end of it, and that stops the crack propagating, but that's fine. Yeah, so that's nice and solid.
So there's a crack there, so that's fine.
Yeah, the crack's fine.
Because there's a hole drilled.
It's the hole drill, so it won't go any farther. If you didn't have that, eventually it'd crack all the way across and fail. Throttle return. When you press the accelerator and release it, does it come off or does it stay? It has to return. So to do that, spring there, which is usually a strong spring, and there's another spring actually on the carburettor. You can see it moving there. So if you press the accelerator, that opens the throttle on the car and makes it go faster. The petrol tank, which has to be fastened, so basically not to wobble around. When you've got a central tank like this, you need to have an overflow fitted. Ideally should have a little cap on there, but in reality it's not going to come out. And just make sure your fuel lines don't go too low. So I think I'd probably put another cable tie. And again, when you put the cable ties on, they're not so tight that it crushes
the fuel line.
the fuel line.
Engine
mounting. For scrutineering purposes, basically it's a rock the engine. But if you go underneath, you'll see the clamps to actually fasten the engine. Exhaust, again on the Hondas it's really simple, it's held on by 2 bolts there. On some classes you've got a whole exhaust system goes across, but for these it just needs to be, make sure it's secure. And don't touch it when it's hot. That's why it's got that symbol. Chain guard. It has to cover the clutch and the rear axle down to below halfway through the axle. So it has to come that far, at least that far down, ideally below. And cover all the moving parts. Basically,
say that again. Just it has to go.
So again, it's in the rule book, but halfway it has to go at least halfway down the axle.
Right.
So that's below half, so it's below the bottom of the axle. That's fine. But it has to be at least halfway. Seat. has to be nice and stiff. Has to have washers on each of the attachment points, and they have to be at least 40 mil in diameter. Rear axle. Look into the grub screws, so it's attached to the axle carrier. The axle carrier is bolted on, so give it a strong wiggle, and then
Can you show me the screw again?
The bolt screw.
there.
That one.
So that little grub screw there. So that's what screws in and stops the axle moving through the carrier. Without that, you go around the corner and the car effectively moves on the axle. Down here, you'll see one of the reasons why this would fail. So you've got thread coming through all of the nuts, that's fine, but there's no circlip on the end of the axle. So if the hub loosens, it falls off. So there should be, if you look on, if we go to the other side hasn't got one either. So you can probably see where the circlip should go. If you go right to the edge and look in, you'll see just inside the end of the axle, there's a ridge where a circlip fits in. So you want 30 mil axle circlips, one at each end. Whilst we're here, brake disc protector. If the disc goes below the level of the axle, which this one does, so if you go down, join me down here, probably better doing it from round the back. Yeah, so the brake disc is below the bottom of the axle. You then need a disc protector, but this one's worn down, so you need a replacement nylon block that sits into the metal frame. So that bit there has worn away. You can see it's level with the metal now.
Yeah.
So that needs replacing.